In less than a week, Mega Raichu X and Mega Raichu Y will be available in Pokémon Champions. Their Mega Stones will come as a bonus for anyone that downloads and sets up their accounts on the mobile app for Pokémon Champions coming June 17th. This is also the last day of Regulation MA, which is the current VGC format and the online rule set for Pokémon Champions. Mega Raichu X brings the ability Electric Surge to Pokémon Champions, so it's safe to assume that in Regulation MB will also feature the rest of the terrains as well. So today we are going to talk about each terrain, what it does when it's active, which Pokemon benefit, and which Pokemon get hurt by a terrain on the field. This video is more for newcomers to competitive, since anyone who has played VGC since Sun and Moon will probably know most of these details already. Although there's nothing wrong with hanging around and refreshing your knowledge. If you enjoy this, don't forget to like and subscribe, hype the video, and tell me your favorite terrain in the comments down below. So, things you'll need to know all about terrains. First, you'll hear me say grounded a lot in this video. This means Pokemon who are making contact with the field. These are grounded Pokemon. Any Pokemon that are flying or have the ability levitate will not get some of these benefits from the terrains. 2. This mechanic is separate from Weather Wars we already have in Pokemon Champions. This is an additional layer, which means there could be multiple field effects possible at one time that you'll have to take into account when battling. For example, there could be sun and grassy terrain on the field at the same time. Third, terrains like weather can be set manually, although this is uncommon. Lastly, just like weather, these terrains are set in speed order. So if two Pokemon enter the field at the same time with different terrains, the slower one will overwrite the faster terrain setter. Let's start out with Electric Surge and Electric Terrain, since we know for sure that Mega Raichu X will have it and it's officially confirmed. We do have to recognize that there could be some crazy off chance that we don't get the other terrains and we just have electric terrain, although I think that's unlikely. First, let's take a look at the terrain setters. The Pokemon that have the ability Electric Surge are Mega Raichu X, Pincurchin, and Tapu Koko, and Miraidon also sets electric terrain with Hadron Engine. I would just expect Mega Raichu X and Pincurchin for Regulation MB. Thundurus is also a Pokemon with the move Electric Terrain in the Prankster ability. When Electric Terrain is on the field, here's some of the main features that you have to look out for. Electric Terrain boosts the power of electric type moves used by grounded Pokemon by 30%. While Electric Terrain is on the field, no grounded Pokemon can fall asleep. This means if a Pokemon was already drowsy before the electric terrain appeared, this drowsy effect will disappear and all sleep moves will fail. This is Sleep Powder, Rest, Hypnosis. No Pokemon can fall asleep when electric terrain is on the field. Other interactions that you have to be aware of but are somewhat uncommon is Alolan Raichu has the ability Surge Surfer, which doubles its speed in electric terrain. The only thing that I would say with this is that you can't have a Kanto Raichu and Alolan Raichu on the same team, so the only way that you could benefit from this is if your opponent brought the electric terrain. Rising Voltage used against grounded Pokemon goes from a base power of 70 to 140, and Galarian Stunfisk's ability Mimicry will change its typing to electric. This will change its typing to whichever terrain is on the field, but I'm just saying it now so I don't have to repeat myself. I don't think it's going to be that relevant. Another thing that you have to take into account is when Paradox Pokemon arrive into Pokemon Champions, Electric Terrain will boost the highest stat of any Pokemon with the ability Quark Drive. There are other things with future Paradox Pokemon, like Iron Leaves, for example, and its Psyblade move, and Quark Drive, but I don't think we'll have to worry about them anytime soon, especially in the next regulation. Now, when we talk about the Pokemon that benefit from electric terrain, it's really just grounded electric type Pokemon, or Pokemon with electric moves, and players who hate facing sleep spam. Alolan Raichu does double its speed with the ability Surge Surfer, and Archaludon can also get really powerful electro shots if you maintain to get rain and electric terrain on the field at the same time. But mainly right now, electric terrain will boost power of electric type moves and prevent sleep. Now, Pokemon that lose out on electric terrain are the sleep setters. Right now in Pokemon Champions, this is mainly just Venusaur, Vivillon, and you also have to factor in some bulky Pokemon like Hypnosis Milotic. Speaking of Milotic, water types are really hurt by this terrain. Charizard and Corviknight are also Pokemon who would prefer to avoid taking strong electric type moves, so I would count them as losers as well. Although they do have Pokemon that are commonly seen with them, like Garchomp and Excadrill, for example, that can help support them in going against electric type Pokemon in electric terrain. Next up, we're going to talk about grassy terrain. Grassy terrain actually has less distribution. We actually see the most from electric terrain here with the Hadron Engine on Miraidon. The only two natural grassy surge Pokemon are Tapu Bulu and Rillaboom. Arboliva also has the ability Seed Sower, so this will set grassy terrain when Arboliva is hit with a damaging move. I would expect Arboliva and Rillaboom to make an appearance if grassy terrain returns. Whimsicott is also a prankster Pokemon with the move grassy terrain, although Whimsicott's moves are kind of already tight to figure out, so I don't see Whimsicott fitting grassy terrain on its moveset at all. Some of the main features that you have to take into account is that grass type moves from grounded Pokemon get the 30% boost. All grounded Pokemon will recover 1/16 HP at the end of every turn. Moves like Bulldoze, Earthquake, and Magnitude will have their power cut in half. This doesn't affect the move Stomping Tantrum and High Horsepower, just to let you know. And one of the most prominent features you see, especially with Rillaboom, is that the move Grassy Glide from grounded Pokemon will have a +1 priority when grassy terrain is on the field. Rillaboom is not the only Pokemon that gets Grassy Glide, but it is the only Pokemon that sets grassy terrain automatically and has access to Grassy Glide. Other things you probably really don't have to worry about yet is Comfey's signature move, Floral Healing, gets boosted from 1/2 recovery to 2/3 recovery, and Go-Go with the ability Grass Pelt also has their physical defense increased by 50%. When we look at the Pokemon benefiting from grassy terrain, there are two things that come to mind. One, bulky Pokemon who want more passive recovery. Any grounded Pokemon with leftovers will recover 1/8 of their HP each turn if they have leftovers and grassy terrain is on the field. Setup Milotic and Incineroar all love getting more HP, allowing them to do more throughout the game. While talking about Incineroar, any Pokemon with a ground type weakness loves seeing the power of Earthquake spam be decreased. Incineroar, Kingambit, Sneasler are a few that really take advantage of it. Serena is another Pokemon that really benefits here. A great way to stop the pivot bros of Incineroar and Rillaboom is with Serena's Queenly Majesty blocking priority moves, and Serena also takes advantage of the +1 stab if it's carrying Grassy Glide. Now, when we look at Pokemon that lose out on dealing with grassy terrain, we once again have to look at the water types. I know I listed bulky water types like Milotic as a mon that can benefit, but that's only if they're not facing a Rillaboom on the other side of the field. Then the grassy terrain could mean trouble. Basculegion has decent bulk, but typically wants to hit first and deal big damage. Terrain giving Grassy Glide a +1 priority means you could snipe Focus Sash or weaken Basculegions off the field with a priority Grassy Glide. The biggest losers, in all honesty, are the Earthquake spamming Pokemon like Garchomp and Excadrill, who typically want as many chances to spam Earthquake for big damage. This is especially bad for them since this also weakens EQ against Incineroar, allowing Incineroar to take more hits and do more with Intimidate, Parting Shot, and Fake Out, all that good stuff. Next, we're going to talk about Psychic Terrain. As we talk about terrains in VGC and terrain setters, Psychic Terrain probably has been the strongest since it enables a lot of Pokemon while slowing down others. Psychic Terrain has the most possibility to play a role in board position, which used right, a player can take advantage of. Psychic Surge can be the ability of 2 Pokemon, but it's technically kind of 3. Both Indeedee female and Indeedee male get Psychic Surge, as well as Tapu Lele. Male Meowstic has Prankster and Psychic Surge. The reason why I put this on the slide as opposed to Thunderous and Electric Terrain and Whimsicott Grassy Terrain is because Meowstic can actually take advantage of the psychic terrain, where Thundurus, being a flying type as well, usually don't benefit from setting the terrain. Some of the main features of psychic terrain is that psychic moves are boosted by 30%. The move Expanding Force from a grounded Pokemon is getting a 1.5 times boost and becomes a spread move. Sorry, Mega Delphox, you don't get to benefit from that, thankfully. Psychic Terrain also protects grounded Pokemon from priority moves. This includes Fake Out, Sucker Punch, Quick Attack, and any targeted moves boosted from the ability Prankster, and Gale Wings boosted moves from Talonflame. I would like to note that this doesn't affect Prankster moves that affect the whole field, like Perish Song or Tailwind and Light Screen and all that stuff. Also, flying Pokemon are not protected, they are not grounded, so your Mega Delphox can still get hit by Fake Out or Sucker Punch, and this would also block Comfey's Draining Kiss because of its ability Triage, giving a priority to recovery moves. Other than Triage from Comfey's, I really don't see anything really waiting for Psychic Terrain becoming available in Pokemon Champions. I think once Psychic Terrain is on the field, the mons that are going to benefit are going to benefit. Speaking of that, let's talk about the mons that benefit and the mons that lose out. When talking about the benefits, we'll see setup Pokemon and Trick Room teams get a solid boost from Psychic Terrain, especially from that female Indeedee, being able to block priority moves from the likes of Incin, Sneasler, and Rillaboom, and King Gambit with Sucker Punch can allow other Pokemon to handle threats before they can deal damage. A lot of the benefits are really benefits from Indeedee female, like I said, being in the format. Being a bulky redirector with priority blocking Psychic Surge can enable a lot of different strategies. Mega Alakazam is also a possible Pokemon that benefits, since it is a Mega that gets access to Stab Expanding Force with great speed. Mega Alakazam also benefits from the likes of King Gambit not being able to Sucker Punch them or getting faked out. The Pokemon that get hurt by Psychic Terrain are really just Fake Out and Sucker Punch Pokemon, although it just makes good switch-ins and play calling more important when facing Psychic Terrain. Rillaboom can pivot with U-turn to regain control, while Pokemon like Incin and King Gambit can hit Psychic type Pokemon for super effective damage while not taking any damage from Expanding Force. So are they really losers? I really don't know. Next up, we're going to talk about Misty Terrain. Misty Terrain is probably the most unique terrain out of the four, with it rarely being used by Galarian Weezing as one of the Pokemon that get Misty Surge, as Neutralizing Gas is used more often, which basically just leaves Tapu Fini as the only real Misty Surge, Misty Terrain setter. I wouldn't expect to see it this often or at all, unless the Tapus come back, then you'll see it on Tapu Fini. I would also note that Grimmsnarl and Klefki are both Prankster Pokemon with access to Misty Terrain, but I feel like they could put other moves in their moveset that would benefit them and their team a lot more often, especially with Grimmsnarl, who likes to spam Thunder Wave on some sets. Now, Misty Terrain, like I said, is the most unique out of the four. It depends on whether you think that's good or not. Misty Terrain blocks grounded Pokemon from all status effects like Burn, Sleep, Freeze, Paralysis, and Confusion. This doesn't heal any status effects that happened while Misty Terrain was not on the field. Misty Terrain also halves the damage of Dragon type moves. It does not boost Fairy type moves. Thank goodness you won't have to see it next to Mega Floette. And that's about it. While the benefits of Misty Terrain are good, it can prevent your Pokemon from being slowed down by Stadius. This is also true for your opponent. Basically, all Pokemon benefit because no Pokemon, besides a few niche cases like Guts Facade Flareon or Poison Heal Gliscor, want to be status during battle, which Toxic Orb isn't even in Pokemon Champions yet. There's also Misty Explosion that gets a 50% boost in Misty Terrain, but that's more on the gimmick side. While this does have the possibility to hurt certain strategies, for example, we've seen Toxic Debris Glamora with a Focus Sash be used to try to get Toxic Spikes on the field. Misty Terrain would prevent your Pokemon from being poisoned. This would also prevent Mega Skull Villain from doing its main job of burning everything. Sneasler's Dire Claw is less of an issue compared to Scarlet and Violet. Garchomp, Archaludon, and Dragonite also don't want to get their Dragon-type moves weakened, but I think both Archaludon and Mega Dragonite in Rain would just click the better moves instead of Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor. When you think about it, man, half the terrains, Grassy terrain and Misty's terrain, can slow down Garchomp in some way, shape, or form. While we covered each terrain independently, there are some things that you need to think about when you're talking about terrain wars overall. Here's some more things to think about. How to stop terrain. So if you're dealing with an opponent's terrain, how do you stop it from slowing you down? Well, you play it similar to the weather wars. You try to maintain control of the terrain that you want on the field or the terrain that you don't want on the field. This comes down to board position. You can manually set another terrain, but there's also some moves that take down terrain. If you want to remove terrain, there's Defog, which rarely gets used in VGC, but Ice Spinner is probably your best bet, being found on Pokemon like Serena, Crocodile, Weevil, and these Pokemon are already in Pokemon Champions. There's also the use of terrain seeds in VGC. This is an item that could become available. It's safe to assume that if terrain returns, then so may these seed items. These can be used by Pokemon that want to boost a defensive stat to stick on the field longer, or by an unburdened Pokemon like Hawlucha or Sneasler, doubling their speed after the seed activates. Electric and Grassy Seed both boost the defense, while Misty and Psychic Seeds boost special defense and activate when that respective terrain appears on the field. Expect to see Sneasler take advantage of this next to Rillaboom for boost. It's a low defense and proccing Unburden. There's also a strategy of carrying Throat Chop or Lash Out with Psychic terrain, but I don't know if the Throat Chop, Lash Out, Psychic Seed will be as strong as it was when this Sneasler usually used Dark Terra type in Scarlet and Violet. And that's going to be all. Few credits here. Most of the images I pulled right off of Bulbapedia. I did double check some things and confirm percentages from Cerebi and Bulbapedia as well. This basically covers what you need to know to get started using and facing terrains in Pokemon Champions. This is written before we officially know what Pokemon will come to Regulations MB in Pokemon Champions, so if there are any new Megas that get terrains as well, expect a follow-up when that information gets revealed. Let me know any questions you may have in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this and got some important information out of it. If you did, do not forget to like and subscribe. But until next time, that's going to be all. I'm Zach, and we'll see everyone later.